Well, the last time that RCB played in the IPL, they gave us the lowest score of the league. The last time the Rajasthan Royals played in the IPL, they gave us the highest score of the league. It's a wonderful contrast as the two teams descend in Pune for match number 39 of this year's tournament. This is Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout, powered by IQ 9 5G. Dan Vettori with me. We'll also hear shortly from Ian Bishop. They gave us arguably the game of the tournament when they met last time this season. It's a nice little clash. One team coming in the back of this invincibility that Joss Butler's given them. And the other one, even though they're well placed at the points table, how do you react after 69 all out? Did it ever happen at your time at RCB?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Couple of times. I think they've reacted. They've put Kohli to the top of the order, and I think that's the change that they've initiated to try and get past that result. And I think a lot of IPL teams just move on pretty quickly as well. So Rajasthan will feel good, but RCB won't be demoralised too much by that performance. I think they can bounce back pretty quickly.
Yeah, and they've won the toss like they did when the reverse fixture happened in game number 13. That was a terrific game, one which saw the best of Joss Butler on a tricky surface at the Wankhede Stadium. He made that curious innings of 70 or 47, which saw no fours and 6 sixes to take Rajasthan to a very competitive 169. Looked to be enough for a long time until Dinesh Karthik walked in and changed the game almost single-handedly. Had support from Shahbaz Ahmed, but 173 is what they managed to chase in the last over. It's all set up to be a good one as I welcome Ian Bishop to this evening's program too. You get a feeling this one's going to be good, don't you, Bish?
Well, I'm really looking forward to it, to be quite honest with you. Whether it's good is out of our control, but to get a chance to see like Hetmeyer and obviously Joss Butler, and then to see Virat Kohli at the top, I was thinking about that today, and I was trying to look through the RCB because Anuj Rad hasn't fired. So unfortunately, he had to be rested. And the only option I could see within that squad, from a non-overseas player anyway, was to get Virat back at the top. So I'm curious to see how Virat handles his poor form because he looked shell-shocked when he was dismissed first ball against Sunrisers Hyderabad. I've never seen that look on his face before. So I'm curious to see how he responds.
Yeah, join us, join all of us for the amount of camera time Virat Kohli's enjoyed through this decorated career. Have we ever seen him react the way he did when he nicked one to Marco Jansen first ball? That is at the back of a duck in the previous one too. Faf du Plessis addresses it at the toss itself. He doesn't want to keep any cards close to his chest. He says that Rajat Patidar will get a game. Anuj Rawat will go out. Curiously, Patidar, who was part of the team for the last couple of years, did not get a buyer at the auction, came into RCB as a replacement player when Lavneet Sisodia, the KPL-based wicketkeeper bat, was ruled out to injury. Patidar now gets a game at 3. Kohli bumps up at the opening slot where he's got heaps and heaps of runs in the IPL. Dan, thoughts?
I think it's the right move, and it feels coincidental that Joss Butler's chasing down his record, it feels like at the moment. And you feel back to that time when Kohli played so well, it was in that opening position. And I've always thought that's when he's at his best because it allows him to get himself in. It allows him to play shots that feel comfortable to him. And I think the partnership with Faf means he can run hard, he gets the singles, it's a big part of his game. So I think that partnership could bring out the best in him.
Maybe we could go deeper into that. What does Faf du Plessis possibly change when just being at the other end? Last time he's come in to replace, say, a Faf du Plessis. We've seen him run out a couple of times this season trying to nick one of those early singles. Does Faf make a difference at the other end, opening?
I think Virat sees a contemporary and someone who's probably on the same level as him. And that means that the focus is not just on Kohli to do all the job. And possibly at times he's felt like that he has to be the be-all and end-all in that opening partnership. But I think they're equals. Faf's record's amazing. He's captain. He's the predominant leader. So those two coming together with that mutual respect, I think will take that pressure off Kohli, and I think you'll see him at his best. Hopefully his aggressive best, because I think that's what everyone wants to see, him be aggressive, because that's when he's at his best.
Bish, I wonder if you want to extend on that point. We know for so many years, Kohli loved batting with one of the greats that the game's seen in AB de Villiers. He doesn't have that comfort of that friend and colleague that he had in that team. In Faf du Plessis trying to forge some sort of relationship there. Could it make a difference, opening, walking out with the new captain, as against coming in a tough situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we go back to last season, again, when you've asked me that question before, I've been a fan of Virat opening the batting. He didn't fire in the same way when he did it. I think it was last year, was it? As I expected, as he did back in his halcyon days of the IPL. So I'm hoping that he can make a better fist of it, because if he can't make a fist of this, they're in real trouble, because Kohli is central to many of their batting plans as they go later and deeper into the tournament. So they need him in the team and need him in form.
Could you ask for a better bowler than Trent Bolt if you're trying to find form? If you're Virat Kohli, possibly you could. But let's look at the Rajasthan team. There are changes here. They are playing their final overseas members. So now all 8 have been tested. As Daryl Mitchell, hero for New Zealand in the semi-final of the World Cup last year, gets his first IPL cap. It comes at the expense of Obed McCoy. Karun Nair, who was brought in while Rajiv Anderdusen was left out, is also gone out, and they've gone back to Kuldeep Sen, who they left out for a game or so. Now, does that look a better team to you, Dan? I mean, it's a team that's winning. I wonder if you would have made changes.
In my mind, I thought Mitchell might sneak into that number 7 role, and that would give them that depth of the all-rounder, but they haven't. They've left Ashwin at number 7. I think Daryl Mitchell's...
I mean, we're just assuming that's the order. With Rajasthan, you never know. Ashwin could bat anywhere in the top 7, yeah.
Somewhere around there anyway. But I think Mitchell's a dynamic player. He actually brings everything they want in. He'll be aggressive when he comes in to bat in any situation. We saw that in the World Cup semi-final, final, where he opened the batting and was aggressive throughout the tournament. So where they use him will be fascinating. And then they get someone who can bowl an over or 2, which I think balances them out a little bit. Hopefully they use him in the right situation, not save him for the 19th or 20th over. But he's just a player that brings a bit of energy in. So I think it'll complement what the rest of the squad's brought to the table so far.
It's a team that's won 2 on the trot. So 2 schools of thought here. 1, why do you change a winning team? 2, you're looking good. You're a favourite for the playoffs. So let's try every combination, and then we'll know exactly what our best team is. What do you see here?
Well, I think a winning team can handle changes, particularly when they're articulated well and you can see where the improvement is. A losing team can't handle changes because sometimes there's no objective measures. It's a very subjective thing. Bowler drops out because the batting team's done poorly. Those sorts of things. So I think a winning team can handle it. The individuals may question it, but as a collective, I believe that winning teams can handle the changes.
Sanju Samson said at the toss that everyone in the team is also flexible to these changes. So that's the captain speaking on behalf. But easier said than done, Bish. I mean, you tell an Obed McCoy, who won you a couple of games back, bowled a crucial ball to make sure you're on the right side of the result, has 3 bad balls against Rovman Powell or whatever the decision may have been, and you tell him, now we're trying something else out. But is that okay in a winning team?
How much time have we got for me to answer this question here? Because it's a lot to unpack.
It's not world feed, Bish. We can go on and on, even if the first ball is bowled. Take it away.
And Dan is in the best position, having been intricately involved from a coaching and playing perspective. But you look at Mumbai Indians, right? And what Rohit Sharma said. We're trying to give guys a long run. Faf du Plessis said the same thing just now. They tried their best to give guys a lengthy run. But it sounds to me as if these are batsmen talking about batsmen, because the bowlers on teams keep getting left out every so often. Now, if I'm upfront and frank with you, I'm not sure that they should be chopping and changing this much, but I can see why they did it. Obed McCoy, as much as I was pleased for him personally with his last over heroics, he hasn't really bowled as well because he's been out of the game since last October. So he got that initial success, but he hasn't bowled as well as I know he can bowl. So to give him a little bit of time on the sideline, I think privately for me, it's a good thing so he can get some more reps in before he comes back. His slower ball back of the hand wasn't working at all, and that is his go-to delivery. So I can see where Kuldeep Sen comes back in. He got dropped after he bowled a fantastic last over. He got one more game and he was gone as well. And Daryl Mitchell will offer them that batting and that bowling, because I don't know that Karun Nair was giving them enough. So I can see why they did it, but there's a 2-part side to this discussion.
Anything to add on Bish's points? The bowlers tend to get a more raw deal when it comes to this flexibility?
Of course.
Yeah.
That's why bowlers get so excited when there's a bowling captain. I mean, someone like Pat Cummins coming into the Australian team, you can see that brings a different dynamic around how they talk about their team and how they look after their bowlers. But more often than not, it's the bowlers that pay the price for batting captains, batting coaches' decisions.
Samson said something interesting at the toss, which is we're looking also at the opposition and conditions. They're back at the MCA Stadium in Pune. We believe they're playing on the same surface that the MI-KKR game was played on, where Pat Cummins showed us, speaking of him, that you could score 15-15 if you'd like. Now, is Daryl Mitchell the bowler part of the calculation at all here?
I think they see him in the overall scheme of things as an all-rounder and the person who give you 1 or 2 overs. And maybe if conditions suit, maybe there's something in the wicket early on, then they could utilise him. But you can't rely on him for 4 overs, I don't think, because his 4 overs, you'd have to extend him out to the death. And whilst he's bowled a lot of death for Northern Districts back home, Canterbury back home, it's still a bigger ask coming into the IPL to try and perform that.
So, good question to ask you, I guess, because they've tried Neesham for one game, the one they lost against the Gujarat Titans. You have Neesham and you have Mitchell. Why have they picked one over the other for a game like this?
I think they made training. Training may have brought out the best in Daryl Mitchell. They may have seen something that they liked. They may have seen the dynamic, the way that he has a lot of energy, he fields well, just the total package. So it's a chance of saying we are playing well as a team. There's a player on the sideline who we think is a good player. Can we get him into the team? And this is our opportunity.
All right, fair enough. So there you have it. Rajasthan Royals are going to be batting first. Normally we say tosses are an advantage. If you win the toss, you bowl first. Rajasthan Royals don't give a damn about that stat. Josh Butler is a large part of that conversation. So now that they're batting first again, the Royals, it's a very simple chat with Dan Vettori and Ian Bishop, 2 bowlers. How do you stop Butler? Who wants to go first? Let's go to Bish, shall we? He's watched, he's called some of these games. Right, Bish, surely teams are thinking now they're going to spend a lot of time of their pre-match talk against Rajasthan and say, what do we do about Butler early on? This is some different level of form we're seeing. Where do we start?
We acknowledge that he's an excellent player. He's perhaps the best T20 top order batsman in the game at the moment as it currently stands. So there shouldn't be any, like you can go in with one plan and say that'll work. But I would initially, if there is something in the pitch, and there have been something for seam bowlers in most pitches because he's been excellent against spin. There was I think a ball tracking graph, a beehive that we did, I think a year or 2 ago, where it says the top of off, not too short. That test match line and length, top of off, not too much outside the off stump. If the ball nibbles a little bit and someone coming up against him, if Josh Hazlewood uses the new ball, can try to work that area, because in times past, it's proven to be a fragile area for Butler, but you don't have much margin for error. So I think you've got to go hard at him in that area, in the power play. And the converse to that is, if you get him out, it's a huge test for Rajasthan Royals, because we know Hetmeyer has been playing well. But how many of the other guys have been batting well apart from Hetmeyer at the depth to try to supplement things if a Josh Butler fails? Samson's in good form, but we need to see it on a larger scale.
Can't help but think that one, you've got 2 international quality bowlers here. You've got Hazlewood, you've got Hasaranga, and the wrist spinner may come into the calculations. Hasaranga is bowling this season, while he picked up a player of the match award early in RCB's season. Last 4 games, he's just gone off the boil a bit. Economy of over 10. He's not completed his quota of overs as well on a couple of occasions, and started brilliantly. Dan, now you have Hazlewood, you have Hasaranga, you also, of course, have Harshal Patel. What's your plan of attack to Butler?
Well, I think that's the starting point. You have 4 quality bowlers because you throw Siraj in there as well. So I think Hazlewood's the key early on. I think Hazlewood-Butler matchup is something that Hazlewood would like from his experiences in Test matches, albeit because he would have been successful against them, I'm sure. And therefore you have 6 balls to attack. I believe you have 6 balls to attack any batsman, and RCB will formulate some plans to go about them, how we attack for 6 balls. And then I think you've got to step back from that and acknowledge the form that Butler's in. So if he gets through those 6 balls, we almost need a 1-ball plan the whole time through. And it sounds like a lot, but it's not really. It's just a captain and a bowler acknowledging how good he is. Are we going to change the field this ball? What's the ball you're going to bowl? Let's keep mixing it up. Can we get a single? Can we get him off strike? All those little things. So this is where the captain plays such an influential role, that if he is on board with the bowlers, then they can keep coming up with plans that they would have thought of before the game started. But every ball's a new game against Butler, and I think they've got to think that way. Otherwise, he gets on top, he starts predicting, and he's just too dangerous once he gets to that.
So I guess you know where I'm going next. What is the 6-ball plan? with Hazelwood to Butler? Let's say you were making it.
Hazelwood's just Hazelwood. He is hitting a hard length. Right. He's trying to nick him off. He's acknowledging that he may walk across the stumps and try and flick him over deep backward square or fine leg. So he may have those two fielders out, and he'll give up a boundary that's carved through the offside. But more often than not, it'll be about him trying to nick him off in those first 6 balls.
Slips?
Definitely. I mean, it's 6 balls to do whatever you want to attack him. So still protect that boundary that you think he's most comfortable going to, but it could be 2 slips, it could be someone hunting in, whatever it is. Give Hazelwood the license because he's earned that with the skill level he has.
And Hasaranga, I'm going to hear your thoughts, and then I'm going to go to Bish to see what he adds.
Well, I think you've got to try Hasaranga. Whether it's the second over or the third over, that's the debate. But Butler in the power play against spin has been very successful. How much he's seen of Hasaranga, I'm not too sure. So you can't just say we're going to rock up and bowl leg spin to Butler and think we have a chance. But I think the quality of Hasaranga gives you another option to go at him with.
He's acknowledged to us in a recent polite inquiries, Bish, where the only bowler he's found really hard to face is Rashid Khan. I don't know if that is limited to just Rashid Khan or whether that extends to just wrist spin, and is Hasaranga nearer to the bracket of Rashid Khan than, say, other wrist spinners. The only other great wrist spinner we have here is in his same team, so you need not worry about Yuzvendra Chahal. But if you could just extend on maybe the matchup with Hasaranga and what Dan's had to say.
Yeah, I think even though Hasaranga has had, let's say, the last 4 games, he's gone at 10 and over. He hasn't bowled well. He hasn't been allowed to bowl well. I think you still have to trust his body of work and hope that he can come good today. So I would still sort of look to match him up with an early over against Jos Buttler. I don't think spin has dismissed Buttler this season. So that tells you how good of a form he is. And when we saw Buttler against Sunil Narine, for example, he just saw off Narine. He didn't really attack Narine, but he's very clever. He knew where he wanted to play his shots thereafter. So I think it's worth RCB throwing everything at him. If plan A doesn't work, go to plan B. If that's Hasaranga or that's someone else, you've got to go to it.
All right. We're focusing on Hasaranga and Hazelwood. Let's not discount the Indian seamers. As Dan Vettori says, there are 4 quality bowlers. Yes, Siraj is one of them. And the other one is Harshal Patel. So I'm guessing each bowler comes with a plan. When the batter's in this sort of form, every bowler is expecting that there's a good chance I'll be bowling to him, whether I'm bowling middle, death, whatever.
Absolutely. And because he's been so destructive early on, they may get caught on in a different role. So Harshal Patel might come in a tad earlier than he has, but I don't think he'll change the way he bowls in particular. I think Siraj is the one who needs to execute the best against him, because I think someone like Butler lines up that sort of pace. Siraj doesn't have all the tricks that the likes of Harshal Patel. So his execution is going to come off and is going to be the key. So we talked about Arshdeep Singh yesterday, and the reason he bowled so well is because he executed. And what Butler does is he puts bowlers off that execution plan because he's so destructive, so he's so unpredictable. So the challenge to those 4 RCB bowlers in particular is can they execute?
Yep, all right, fair enough. We shall find out. Speaking of Harshal Patel, though, had a slightly off, hasn't necessarily had the same sort of form once he's returned, but terrific bowler at the moment. I wonder if you've had a chance to see his comments on another show, Breakfast with Champions with Gaurav Kapoor. Talks about a time where he says felt the epitome of rejection, and a time when you were coach and sent him back for 4 or 5 games, I think, told him to go home because you didn't see him playing. Do you recall that time?
Once you brought it up, another reason I'm glad I'm not on social media. I don't recall the specifics, but I think back to those sorts of decisions, and those sorts of decisions were made all the time by multiple franchises around this player's potentially not in our starting 11 or in our extended squad of 13 to 14. Can we give them a break? Do they need a break from this lifestyle? Get them out of the cycle of IPL. They're bowling a lot on the nets. They're potentially feeling a little demoralised. Is returning them back home just to freshen them up the right thing to do? And the way Harshal's spoken that, it probably wasn't for him. He felt demoralised. He wanted to be part of the team, and that has happened before. I've told players that you're going to go back, have a bit of a break, and I've seen the emotion in their face, and I've changed my mind because it was heartbreaking watching their face. So I said, no, you can stay. So I think in the end, those decisions are made by coach, captain, assistant coaches, and then it goes all the way up to ownership as well, because they want to know where their players are at all times. So I think in the end, you're trying to do the best for the player, but you also understand their dynamic within the team. And I think the fact that he came back shows there wasn't a hard feelings in terms of we're sending you away because we don't rate you. It's just this point in time, we think the next 4 or 5 games, we're going to give these guys an extended run. You go home, freshen up, and I'll argue it worked.
yeah. I mean, came back and was player of the match, wasn't he, in that game against Delhi, even though the season was going down for RCB?
Yeah, but I think, look, I know those decisions, they look back with a bit of revisionist history and you worry about how they look, but I know in the moment in time this was made for the benefit of RCB probably at the time, and hopefully the benefit of the individual, but mainly around what the team required at the time.
And just as you look at him as the bowler he's become today, seems to have significantly enhanced his skill set.
Well, I think the thing that he did, and this is completely on him, is he improved his fitness greatly. He got a lot stronger, and he brought that slower ball into play. And his slower ball is the main reason he is so effective. It is obviously incredibly difficult to pick up. He bowls it so well, he gets so many revolutions on it, and he's coupled that up with his Yorker. So he's turned himself into a back end of power play and a sort of guaranteed death bowler. And that skill set is so vital in T20 cricket. So he becomes such an important factor in any team. And that's shown by the price he went in the auction, how teams rate him so highly because they value that skill set so highly.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of chat of Harshal being one of the certainties for the T20 World Cup, even though that's a conversation we're having for about 30 people or 40 people at the moment. But Harshal Patel looks like he's pretty high up there in the pecking order. Bish, if we maybe extend on that point that Dan just brought up, today is a day where Jos Buttler, strong batting lineup, sees 4 quality bowlers. I mean, I'm not sure you can say a lot of teams necessarily have that. Even Delhi in the last game, we saw almost switched off. There were a couple of games that we feel like Buttler almost had it easy. Teams were waiting for Buttler to get out rather than get him out. Today is a different sort of challenge with the quality of RCB's bowling.
Every game is a different challenge, and you're right. Maybe because of RCB's depth in bowling, it's a steeper curve for Jos Buttler, and maybe we're guilty of looking only at Buttler and not at the rest of it, and that's why I identify the other guys. Just on Harshal, though, my philosophy in my life, even when I was playing, when I got dropped, and I did get dropped a few times, and even post-playing into other spheres of life, I've always said if I got left out of something, I never argued. That's just me personally being an introvert with the people that were responsible for it. I just say, I haven't done well enough, and I need to take ownership of that and do better. And I think with Harshal, sometimes those little adversities make you dig deeper into your bag and come up with something else. It may have been the right or wrong decision at the time, but it caused him to be better. And he's got to be better now because he's gone 3 games of 40, 47, and 2 for 18. If he has another one, the whispers will start. Is this him starting to be read by other people? So today's a big game, I think, for Harshal Patel. I know the passing of a family member probably had a deleterious effect on him. So I'm hoping he gets over that and gets back to his best.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair that. Last game, of course, just 70 to defend. So let's keep that in mind. I think he'll have a few more to play with today if Jos Buttler gets going. But anyway, players already walking out in the middle. Let's get a first innings score from both Bish and Dan. We're seeing a game at Pune after a while now, but it's been reasonably high scoring. Every game with Rajasthan batting first is reasonably high scoring. What do they need here?
184.
Oh, that's specific. Yeah. Go straight to Bish then. 184. Yeah, go for it, Bish.
I think the minimum that brings you success historically, I'll stay with the historic numbers, is 180 up at Pune. So I think you need to get ideally above that.
Okay. And now that we spent about 15 minutes on Jos Buttler, how many is he actually going to get today? Because Ben Cutting spent a whole show with us saying he's going to have a low score today. He's going to have a low score. Yeah, Bish, come on. Is he going to get the runs today, or will the law of averages finally show that it exists?
I'm going law of averages. Whatever that number that determines law of averages, I'm going to go with that. I'm not sure what constitutes a failure for Jos Buttler now, whether 99 or 75 is a failure. But come on, he can't be scoring all these runs. I've got my bowler hat on.
Okay, his lowest score is 13 when he just missed a straight one. That's it from Avesh Khan against Lucknow. He's got 35 after that, and all the other scores are in excess of 50. And 3, of course, as we know, are 100 or more. So, Jos Buttler, today, runs?
184.
on a serious note, is he going to get runs today?
I always back players in these situations that are in form. I think he'll continue it on.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you to Dan Vettori, Ian Bishop.
Less
More
than
from
20
them.
for me.
Yes, Bish. Carry on.
Less than 20. Less than 20. That's all I'm
Less than 20. Brilliant, brilliant. I'm curious to see Shahbaz Ahmed given the first over. So let me get a quick reaction from the left-arm spinner here.
He only needs to get 19 more to prove because he got one off the first ball. So, look, it's just something they've gone into the think tank to try and get it, but I can't believe Hazelwood's not bowling the first over.
Okay, fine. That is a surprise then. All right then, let's see if it works or if it's giving us enough to discuss these teams. Let's pick up the chat with Bish and Dan on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by IQ 9 5G.